You're looking for a camera that won't make you second-guess every shot, that feels solid in your hands, and that actually pays for itself in the images you bring home, not just a laundry list of specs you can't translate into real life. I get that hesitation. The DSLR market is crowded, and the price tag on a full-frame body like this one can feel like a gamble if you're not sure it fits your workflow. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In the next few minutes I'm going to walk through what the Nikon D850 does when you're out shooting a wedding, a wildlife safari, or just a family picnic, and why you might decide it's the right tool or why you'd be better off looking elsewhere. First off, the D850's 45.7 megapixel sensor is the headline grabber, but what matters most is how that resolution translates into everyday shooting. For a professional wedding photographer, the extra detail means you can crop tightly on a bride's dress without losing the crispness that clients expect in large prints. On a wildlife trip, that same resolution lets you pull out a bird in flight from a full-frame frame and still have enough pixel-level texture to sell a magazine cover. If you're a hobbyist who mainly shares JPGs on Instagram, you'll likely never need to exploit the full 45-megapixel canvas, but you'll still appreciate the flexibility when you decide to print a 20 by 30 poster for your living room. Autofocus is where the D850 really earns its stripes. Nikon's 153.AF system, with 99 cross-type sensors, feels confident even when you're tracking a moving subject at 12 frames per second. I've seen it lock onto a runner's face in bright daylight and then hold that focus as the sun drops behind a cloud, without hunting. In low-light situations, say, an indoor ceremony with only candlelight, the camera's AF still finds a subject at f2.8, though you'll notice it's a touch slower than a mirrorless with on-sensor phase detection. The bottom line is, if you need reliable focus for fast action or for critical portraits, the D850 delivers, but you should be prepared to give it a fraction more time in dim rooms. Speaking of low light, the sensor's native ISO range tops out at 25,600, expandable to 102,400. In practice, you'll find clean images up to about ISO 12,800 before noise starts to become noticeable in the shadows. That's plenty for most evening events, especially when you pair the body with a fast prime lens. However, if you plan to shoot concerts or astrophotography where you're pushing ISO 32,000 regularly, a newer mirrorless with more aggressive noise handling might feel more comfortable. The D850 isn't a bargain bin, but it offers a predictable noise curve that seasoned shooters have learned to manage with exposure compensation and post-processing. Stabilization is one area where the D850 is honest about its limits. The body itself has no in-body image stabilization, IBIS. That means you're relying on lens-based VR or on a sturdy tripod for handheld low-light work. If you already own Nikon's VR lenses, you'll get the benefit of up to 4 stops of shake reduction, which is respectable. For those who don't own any stabilized glass, the lack of IBIS can be a deal-breaker, especially when you're shooting video handheld. The D850 does support 4K UHD video at 30 frames per second, and the autofocus works well for static scenes, but the absence of a smooth, in-body gimbal-like system makes it less ideal for run-and-gun videographers. Battery life is a strong point. The ENEL15 battery gives you roughly 1,800 shots per charge when shooting stills, which translates to a full day of wedding coverage without a spare. I've seen shooters get through a 12-hour event with just one battery, swapping only for a backup when the weather gets chilly. For video work, the draw is heavier, but you still get about 2 hours of continuous 4K recording, which is generous compared to many mirrorless competitors that need a spare after an hour. If you travel light and hate lugging extra packs, the D850's endurance is a real confidence boost. Now, let's talk about the lens ecosystem. Nikon's fount has been around for decades, and that legacy translates into a massive selection of lenses from ultra-wide tilt-shift optics to fast 85mm portrait primes. The D850 works with both older manual focus glass and the newest AFS lenses, giving you a lot of flexibility if you're building a kit over time. The downside is that many of the newest high-speed lenses are pricey, and because the camera lacks built-in stabilization, you'll often need to pair those lenses with VR versions to get the best handheld results. If you're already invested in Nikon glass, the D850 feels like a natural continuation. If you're starting from scratch, you'll have to budget for lenses as well as the body. Menu navigation on the D850 is classic Nikon, a multi-selector wheel, 3 main dials, and a fairly deep hierarchy of settings. For someone who has spent time with older